Alright, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time you're watching this. I'm making this video mostly for Jerry, and appreciate his input and stuff. I'm still working on the 3D Klingon D7 model. Pop it up on Blender here. I've been working on the engine design, and this is kind of what I've come up with. Let's go back to this. So let's take the very end cap. I haven't detailed the end cap. It's kind of open at the moment. So move this out of here. This piece here took me a while. What I'm finding, and what I've kind of talked with Jerry about, is that and I have a link if you watch his videos, and or if you watch my videos, you will find out that that's the X. Oh, no, grab the Y, grab the Y, move it out this way. Grab the Y, move it out this way. So far I have this engine designed in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, and with the size it is, and or if I make it bigger, I might even have to split this somehow, or I've considered possibly cutting these almost in half, and just extending these, which would give me one less piece depending on how they print out. These green pieces here, and kind of ignore the purple. I put the purple color in here so you could see the little bars in here, but these pieces I plan on printing in the transparent green, so that if you wanted to light this inside here, if you want to light this, you can either mask off the areas. I've seen one version of this model where they actually made these purple parts like the light diodes, because I have debated on whether to make these separate where you can light this in. I was also debating on making the center bar solid, or making this into two pieces where you have your top pieces and then your valleys, because I kind of think if you made the valleys the valleys, if you lit up the valleys and had the top parts the solid color and then have these the solid color, you could do that as an option, or you could have these, because I could print all of this out of transparent, or like I said, I could design it to where I could split it to where you could either light this, or you could just paint them in. Even if it was two pieces, you could paint them the same color, and then you could have these transparent green, and you could either light them, or you could just, you would have a couple of different options in how you would want to light these, or you, just like the original model, you could just put it all together and paint them all the same color, and it just come out as one color. I also seen on the end here, we'll go back to this area in here, and let's go to 3, so you can see that area on the end here. It's quite elaborate with the greebling. I really think, and this is kind of funny because they took this more or less from the Matt Jeffries design, and or I can't remember the name of the man. He actually made the two wooden models, and he made them slightly different, but this area is more or less the same. And I got some pictures of it, so I think they were kind of concerned that there wasn't a lot of detail on the ship, so they kind of tried to, they put some odd shapes on there just to kind of break up the symmetry. And let's see, let's go out here right quick, and let's go into my pictures. I'll try to skip over the ones I already showed previously. So I got these pictures. This is a Katinga. Some of these pictures are of Katingas, but I was using them for ideas like they illuminated the very front of the nacelle. Look at this one. They illuminated the front of the nacelle with the strip. Okay, this is the Jeffries model, and this was a fairly recent picture. I believe this picture is taken after the Smithsonian had repainted it, because this model had been taken apart. And yeah, they took it apart, they painted it a darker gray, and was drawing like machinist white pencil lines on it, like the pencil you'd use on steel for references and stuff. They masked over this a little bit. They kind of damaged this, because this was actually painted on detail. Somebody had put on a description somewhere that these were decals. They weren't decals. Somebody literally razor knife, like they put on masking tape and razor knife when they made these details. And one thing I noticed in this picture, on the little models, they have this thing down here, and this is supposed to be a light. And in my 1650 kit that I have, this whole piece is chrome, and it has lines on the bottom. You can't really see them in this picture. But what I noticed, especially with this picture, and then in other pictures, this actually sets parallel to the ground. Like if you set this model on the ground, they got a picture where they got a piece of foam holding up your teardrop command center up here on top of the boom. I call it the teardrop. Anyway, most people, I've heard it referred to as the teardrop before, because it kind of looks like a big teardrop, even though then it's got the command deck and the bridge on top. But they have a piece of foam that sets under this, so that it sets the model level on a table. But it actually sets on these lights, and these lights on the model kits, they have them parallel with the engine. They have them angled with the engine. They have them that way in the blueprints too. But on the actual Roddenberry model and the Jeffries model, this sets parallel to the deck. It does not set parallel with the engine. It's not lined up with the engines. It's actually leaned. I don't know the degrees. I could figure it out, because the engines are inset to a degree, but these things set flush to the ground, and I'm kind of glad I noticed that, because I'm gonna reflect that in my modeling when I put that on, or make the piece for that. Okay, here's another picture of the Jeffries model. And the Jeffries model, they claim that there's two filming miniatures, but in actuality, the Jeffries model was the only model that was seen on the original series. The Roddenberry model was never seen on it. The Roddenberry model was used by AMT to create the models that they made, but it was never seen on TV. And this is really poor resolution, extra light. Like you can see the strings. So this was actually probably taken from a movie frame or an audio frame, and they filmed a lot of this on audio tape. It was like actually videotape. It wasn't even film. It was like the early version before VCRs came out. The studios were using, especially for shows, they were using videotape. So this is probably taken from a videotape screenshot, and that resolution on that. This is before Betamax and or even VHS, but it was a precursor to VHS. So this shot is probably a picture taken with the camera from a TV screen, from a standard definition TV screen, because it almost looks cartoonish because it's so blurry. But you can actually see the line. Like I said, you can see the string where they had tied this. You can't see the strings in the back, but there were strings there too. And this is a shot, another shot, that this was actually, I believe, taken from like they blurred this into it. This is, like I said, audio shot. There's no background. They just got a black background. This is actually, I believe, this is a shot that somebody had taken from a television screen, like hopefully a 19-inch television screen. But this was taken from a color television screen. Somebody took a picture of this literally from a TV screen. And again, it's kind of hard to see, but I can see it. These are angled, like I said, these are parallel. And this is from the Jeffries model. This is a 28-inch wooden model that they actually, these are shots probably from the episode, one of the episodes. This model was in 3 episodes. And like I said, in one episode it represented a Romulan ship. And I need to rewatch that episode. I don't know. I'm imagining what they probably did is they probably put tape over that, because you see in later pictures too where some of the decals or the painting, like I said, they're not really decals, but they're damaged. They're damaged from where they had put tape over them, and then they painted over that tape for when they used it for the episode, the original episode where this represented a Romulan ship. They just basically painted it over. And it's claimed that this is a 2-tone model, which means it had 2 separate colors of paint on it. And I'm submitting that if it did have 2 separate colors, they were really damn close to being the same color. I think the shading and the lighting gave it an appearance as a 2-tone, and I actually think that I would love to see if they could UV scan the Jeffries model, which is actually, this is in the Smithsonian now. But I wish they could, I don't know if they could UV scan it and find out if the original colors on it, because they actually did that technique to the 11-foot Enterprise model. They UV scanned it, and they had people, thank God, that had took some pictures of it with color slides, and that really saved their bacon in some ways when they wanted to restore this, when they did the last restoration of the Enterprise model at the Smithsonian. Between the color slides that people had taken and submitted and the UV scanning, they had come up, they had figured out that like the original colors, and they were wanting to make that, they wanted to remodel as like what they called the second pilot episode, which was the majority of the filming for the original series, because they did X amount of filming for that episode, and they reused and reused that. There was a few things where fans noticed, or people with good eyes noticed, the little differences in some of the things. Part of the thing, they filmed the 3-foot model, and the 3-foot model of the Enterprise, actually the bottom where the saucer, where the phasers are, the saucer's like flatter. They didn't make the saucer with as much detail on the bottom as they did the 11-foot filming model. Okay, this is a Revel 1/600 scale, and they changed some of the detail here in the boom. They should have another, let's call these strakes, these straight lines. They have 3 straight lines, but they actually should be 4 or 5 straight lines. It's pretty crisp. They did make the lines pretty crisp, which is kind of neat. It's actually pretty detailed. They enlarged the portals a little bit as compared to the original model, and I believe, I can't really tell, but they put the grooves in here. They put the vent lines in here. This is called a I think on some models and pictures it's called the hydrogen collector, but it's supposed to collect on the blueprints that they did in 1975. They call this a particle or gas collector, which was similar to the Bassard collectors on the Enterprise, except for on the Enterprise it's on the engines. On this model it's supposed to be this big grill system, kind of like how a blue whale collects krill with its really fine meshy teeth. And they put in, they got this a little more rounded. They put in an extra, they got grill in here, and then they put in They put in a bigger strake line here. On the engine pods, where I would call it the engine pylon, I actually call this a hull wing, and then this I call an engine pylon, just to separate the two angles. But on here they put on your vent lines, but they got rid of the diamond. There's kind of a diamond shape here. It's actually, I kind of laugh, it's kind of a box shape with rounded corners, and then they stretch one corner of it. If you actually stretch that corner in, it would be almost like a square, like a rectangle with rounded corners. And then they, from what I can tell, they lost some of the angles that are on the Jeffries and the Roddenberry model in here. They just put straight angles, where on the Roddenberry and Jeffries model, that's actually tapered in. They stayed fairly true to this, although it seems like they kind of have a separation here. We're on the Roddenberry and that model. I don't think, I need to relook at the blueprints, but I don't think that's as separated. And then here they have it blended in, and it doesn't seem like they don't have much of an angle here. There's more of an angle where they lean the walls in, which kind of makes it lose its the look of it. It looks more like an hourglass taper in that. So I appreciate what Rebel did with this, but it's funny to me. And then they also, under here, you can see that this deck, it extends over the, there's a little area, the teardrop, where it curves up into part of the deck if you look at the blueprints, and it goes all the way to that edge, where on this Rebel model they have like a space in there. So like I said, I kind of use this as a reference, but and they tended, it looks like they put in, there's a little vent section up here that actually bisects that line bisects that little vent area, and they have that on the blueprint. Somebody added that on the 1975 blueprints. They put that in for detail, again, because this model, the actual two filming models and the original AMT models, there wasn't a lot of detail on them. They were the shapes, and they had a little detail on this neck, and some of this stuff. But just when Star Wars came out, 8 years later, and he used way more greebles on his models, and then Battlestar Galactica, the same thing, Buck Rogers, they started making these really complicated, complex ships. Okay, this picture here, this is a filming model that they actually used in Deep Space Nine for the episode Trials and Tribulations. And this model was made by, I don't remember his name, I think it's Jerry Kyle, I'll look it up, it's on this card. But anyways, this model, this miniature, was built close to the scale of the Jeffries and the Roddenberry model, and from what I can tell, it was modeled more from the Roddenberry model. It has more of it has this elongated grill out here, and it stretches further over the back of the body. The Roddenberry model did that, where the Jeffries model didn't. This was actually scrunched up more, and this was more parallel with the body, which I'm kind of glad that accidentally, or whatever you want to call it, that the model that they made, because the same man made those two models. So I think what he did is he made the first model, and then they took that's called the Jeffries model, they took that over and right away, and they filmed it, because they wanted to get some episodes on film, AMT did, so that people would see this, and they wanted them to buy this. They were making pretty good little bit of money on their Enterprise model, so they wanted to get this on screen. So they actually made the Jeffries model, and they rushed over there, and the same man made both models. And I think he used a little bit of artistic license, and he stretched that out because he realized that it looked better stretched out, and then he leaned this more over the back of this. And this particular model here, like I said, I think it was more influenced by the Roddenberry model. And this copper color, now when they showed it on Deep Space Nine, I think they painted this more after the fact. He's got lights here, and I think the lights they had blinking on there, because this actually has some fiber optic in it, so they put a few lights on it. They still have the portals painted on, but they had a few more lights in this, and it's kind of neat that I don't know if this is actually yellow. This little part in here is yellow. It's not really copper, but they painted the rest of this like a copper color, and I think they did it to make the details stick out. And it does not have the little round shape that they have on the Roddenberry model. They have another round shape that they added on the Roddenberry model, which added some detail. And then the AMT 1650 scale kit, they offer that piece, and it's offered in chrome. It's chrome, and it's looks kind of like a little round pipe with a slit in it, and it has ribs, and it has a big end where it kind of, I call it looks like a beer can kind of, but it doesn't really look like a beer can. It just reminds me, it has that extra lip on it, though, like a can does. And they have a few more. This is kind of funny. They have the Reliant over here. This was at an exhibition somewhere. I doubt that was a filming model. I don't know, but they have the Reliant over here, and the whole thing's like gold plated or bronze plated. So, anyways, they have some definite different shots of this, but I do like where they painted in. They more or less took the detailing. They took the lines from the Katinga, and they painted those on this model. They were actually just painted or penciled on. They don't actually stick up on the model, but they actually did draw in some of the Katinga lines to make it look more like it had more detail. So in Trials and Tribulations, when they filmed this, and it's kind of funny because they actually kind of somewhat tinted this green. It has more of like a Romulan green tint, and I can't tell if the grill lines are in there or not. On the Jeffries model and the Roddenberry model, there's actually no grill lines in that. It has that intake. Now this is interesting. This is a picture of, I think, one of the extra ones they were making to use the pyrotechnics, and that they were going to use this in the motion picture, but they were actually making it for phase 2, and then I think they changed the design to the Katinga. But with the shading again, I don't know, this might be a Polaroid, but it comes out where it has a real teal color to it. Okay, here's a picture of the Roddenberry model, and this is in what's called now, I think it's just called the Sci-Fi Museum in Seattle, Washington. If you zoom it up, you can see where they painted on and penciled in the lines, and it's kind of hard to see because this looks more grayish, but this is actually kind of a mint green, and then it had a darker gray. This is actually almost like what you'd call a 5-tone model. It actually has like 5 colors on it. And I saved some Katinga. Okay, so here's kind of this is a physical model, and it's pictures of a physical model, and you can see, because you can see too the split lines from the pieces that go on top. And this, somebody modified a little bit. This is actually your hangar bay, and this is supposed to be your impulse engine, but somebody actually made the little pieces and did LEDs in here, and they kind of took the impulse engine idea from the Katinga, and they put this on this model. And what I do like about this model, if we blow this up a little bit, it's good. It's a fairly decent resolution, and you can kind of see these shapes I was talking about. And these, I think, I guess it's not upside down, but I think on the original, Jeffries and or the Roddenberry model, and on the little AMT, you have this shape, and you kind of have these shapes, but I don't think you have this. I think this is a bigger oval. I have to relook at it and stuff. But this is kind of neat, and again, I don't think they leaned these. I kind of can't tell if they're leaned or not, but These should be land. It looks land on this side. It doesn't look land on that side. It's probably just a picture. And that's what I was talking about. Like I said, this is more pronounced where you almost, part of it's probably the angle too. This does have more of the true, instead of having blue, this is actually black. This is supposed to be mint green. This is a little darker green. That's actually supposed to be like a mint green, and red and black, and it's supposed to be on that yellow. And this has the markings of the fleet on the Deep Space Nine when they kind of changed this a little bit. And this reflects more of the Jeffries model. On the Roddenberry model, this actually has like a tail sticking out. And I'm on 25 minutes, so I need to, I don't think it takes it. Okay, so here's another TV shot. Like I said, the model basically looks gray, but that's low definition. And I think I'll end this one here. And I will catch you on the next one, so I don't end up making this an hour long.